third year and PG program. Yesterday, 2nd October, was 152nd birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhiji, father of the nation, whose one life is one lesson for us to live many lives through. There is no aspect of life that Gandhiji's life has not touched upon, be it standing for truth, be it compassion for underprivileged people, be it education, or be it environment. Today we have, under DBT Star College scheme organized by Department of Botany, lecture by our very own Dr. P.G. Kale sir. Sir's authority on different topic has come through his voracious reading habit, and also he tries to put the things in right perspective for us to understand the topic. One generation before myself and Praveen sir, contemporary of Date Madam, Usha Madam, and still like a child to Kamaka sir, Star Madam, Bhagwat sir, and everybody. Sir, I welcome you today on the occasion of Gandhi Jayanti, the lecture talk that we have arranged by you for our students who are also a student of environmental sciences. Gandhiji's views, perspectives, his actions, and its sustainable long-term effect. I want you to throw some light on this in relation to environment. Request my colleague and our vice principal, Captain Praveen Nayak sir, to give a formal introduction of Kale sir, and then we shall have sir's talk. Praveen sir.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's a privilege to introduce Kale sir. Good morning, Kale sir, the speaker for the day. Good morning, Usha Madam, Director, HVPS. Dr. Himanshu Davda, Principal, RJ College. Okay, teachers and student friends. Sir is a well-known figure in our college, not only in our college but outside as well. Sir has a multifaceted, you can say, he is a multifaceted personality. He is a BSc in zoology. He is BSc in botany. He is MSc in zoology. He is MSc in botany. He has MSc research in zoology, and he is PhD in zoology. So you can say he's master of botany and zoology and chemistry as well. His passion is environment. As I can see, he has worked in a number of fields related to environment. Sir has been a member board of studies, University of Mumbai. He has also been a member Faculty of Science, University of Mumbai, as well as he has been a chairman for undergraduate as well as postgraduate zoology examination. Sir has been or is a member of number of associations. He is presently the secretary of the Association of Teachers in Biological Sciences, known as ATBS. Sir is also on the director board of Paryavarn Dakshata Mandal. Sir is associated with number of other associations like Mycological Society of India. Sir has been he has been a PhD guide and has guided a number of students for their PhD and MSc research work. Sir has been a member of the steering committee of the Indian Science Olympiads and has been a team leader for the biology Olympiads gone to Australia. Sir, Indonesia, na?
Yes.
Yeah, sir has been to Indonesia as well as the International Olympiad which occurred in India. Sir is ambidextrous, I would say, right? He can write with both right hand as well as left hand, and he's an excellent, he can draw very nicely caricatures and other things. in a matter of time.
Been too
Uh,
long.
Pardon, sir?
Cut it short.
Yes, sir. I'm cutting it short only because I am telling what I know, right? And there are some many things which I don't know. Okay, but then still it goes into long essay. Now, without wasting much time, I would request Kale sir to please deliver his talk. Thank you, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you for giving me this unique opportunity to talk about Gandhiji's views on environment. I do not consider myself fit enough, qualified enough to speak on Gandhiji, but well, whatever I have read about him and whatever I hold in my mind always, I will speak mainly on that. Well, as such, Gandhiji was never a green philosopher or has written many articles, poems, literature on nature, and therefore was not included in the Encyclopedia of Human Ecology edited by Julia Miller and others. But still, the writers and the historians of environmental sciences like Vandana Shiva, Anil Agarwal, Madhav Gadgil, Ramchandra Guha, they all consider him to be an early environmentalist. Well, his views on nature are scattered throughout his writings. He has mainly dwelt upon truth, satyagraha, non-violent movements, simplicity of lifestyle, and many more principles that we are going to go through soon enough. Well, as early as in 1934, I quote him. He said, God forbid that India should ever take to industrialization after the manner of the West. The economic imperialism of a single tiny island country, that's England, is today keeping the world in chains. If an entire nation of 300 million took to similar economic exploitation, it would strip the world bare like locusts. This is what he had said as early as in 1934, when he had propagated a Sarvodaya model with village kept at the center. That was because in that era, 7 lakh villages existed. Even today, I think the same number exists. However, the first Prime Minister of India, Chacha Nehru, chose the industry based developmental model for India, which I don't know has created a lot of environmental degradation, pollution, and so on, will come over soon enough. Well, Gandhiji's ideas, Gandhiji's philosophies have been popular all throughout the world. He had counted 7 deadly sins. The first one was that wealth without work. You inherit a lot of money, you invest it, and you earn still lots without actually putting in any work, any physical work at least. Pleasure without conscience, science without humanity, knowledge without character, politics without principles, commerce without morality, and worship without sacrifice. These were listed as 7 deadly sins by him. Well, in fact, he was a fan of Jainism, and accordingly, he considered Earth as a living organism. Well, friends, cosmic law views the entire universe as a single entity. And the law of species says that without the cooperation and sacrifice of both human and non-human things, evolution is not possible. We all are aware of the principles of altruism. Well, I will not dwell more upon it. The essential unity of man and the entire life, we believe, constructs what is referred to in ecology as biotic community. Well, among all living things, the most rational animal we consider ourselves to be, of course, man, and therefore we are supposed to be the custodians of the rest of the creation, and we must respect the rights of all living things and should cherish the diversity. And probably this is the principle of ecological sustenance. However, I quote Gandhiji's words again: what we are doing to the forests of the world is but a mirror reflection of what we are doing to ourselves and to one another. I unquote. Well, Gandhian philosophy has picked up fundamental environmental issues like overconsumption, violence to man and nature, and this was done several decades before environmental crisis struck. At this point, let me make a comparison between Western and Indian philosophies. Well, I will not go into the history much, but I can definitely say this much, that the first person who influenced the modern philosophy of West had been Newton. Newton propagated the view that all the things are working like a machine, mechanistic view. And this was picked up by another great philosopher, Descartes. And this Cartesian philosophy, even today, rules the entire West. And what is that? It is supposed to be the materialistic development. Western civilization has never attached any importance to morality against science and progress or development. But Indian philosophy has never been like that. We have always been thankful towards nature. In fact, we consider that the entire universe is built of five uh, Mula Tattva, as we call them, Pancha Mahabhut, and we worship them. Um, well, I don't know whether you all have been, but I have been of the generation wherein we used to chant many verses, and one among them I clearly remember was to be chanted in the early morning as you get up, as you wake up from the sleep, and you say Karagre vasate Lakshmi Karamadhe Saraswati Karamule tu Govindam Prabhate Karadarshanam. In fact, this also has been a Gandhian philosophy, that you work with your hands and not use the machines. Anyway, I go to the later part of the words. It says that Samudra Vasane Lakshmi Parvatastana Mandale Vishnu Patni Namastubhyam Padasparsham Kshamaswame, means that I beg pardon of the earth because I'm going to set my feet on it now as I wake up. Friend, this has been the thankfulness towards nature that Indian philosophy taught us. And Gandhiji was a grand supporter of these thoughts. Well, the consumerism that propagated in West, of course, it has been adopted by us on a huge scale now. But this consumerism was the major cause of whatever degradation of environment that occurred probably 1800 onwards. Well, of course, there is another aspect of it that maybe Gandhiji did not speak about as clearly, but that the world population has been increasing steadily. Well, in 1800s, it was just 100 crores. But in 1900, it became 160 crores. And 2020, today, we are more than 770 crores in the world. And though China still occupies the first position with 140 crore population, we are not far behind. Currently, we are 138 crores, and probably still increasing in number, such that we shall soon be the topmost country so far as population is concerned. The growth rate of Indian population has definitely been reduced, and in 2017, I have a data only for that, not more recent one. The growth rate has been 1.13%. This is not lowest, because in many European countries it has gone into minus figures. Even in China, it has been zero for quite some time now. And therefore, there is a scope to say that, yes, India is going to be the topmost country in the world so far as population is concerned. We have been about 17.7% of the world. Um, so it almost seems that out of every 7 persons, one is an Indian. And well, the density of the population today stands at 164 persons per square kilometer. The only positive thing that I can see in all this data is that the median age of Indian population is 28.4 years. So India is at such young, and therefore has a real manpower, youth power, as we can put it. Well, uh, this explosion of the population has caused, an increase in poverty. We have to feed more mouths every year, and that probably has put a lot of pressure on our agriculture, on our industries, and so on and so forth. And this has also caused, a tremendous increase in the environmental issues like pollution mainly. Well, Um, well, in fact, Gandhiji's philosophy was something different. He said that anyone who takes more than required natural resource is supposed to be a thief. So it's a theft, taking away more than required resources. Well, there have been several environmental movements that probably have been based on environmental justice all throughout the world. In fact, well, I have always put it as a conflict between haves and have-nots. Um, Through industrialization, what has happened is the inequality, again, which is against Gandhian principles, inequality has propagated. Few people, less than probably 5% of the population, are much more, many times wealthier than the remaining population. Well, um, in Gandhian philosophy, only one force of universal application is supposed to be that of ahimsa, or love. Um, it's a very famous adoption that Gandhiji had made from Bhagavad Gita, ahimsa paramo dharma. However, the later part of it is also relevant, dharma ahimsa tathaivacha. Well, in this saying, ahimsa is supposed to be a dharma. And dharma is not supposed to be a religion here. Dharma is supposed to be the way of life. And therefore, in your way of life, you must follow this principle of ahimsa. However, when it's going against the laws of life, you must be able to defeat the bad principles. In fact, it's not good to, but I would like here to remind you that no Hindu deity that we worship is without weapons in the hand. We worship them. Yes, they are supposed to be idols, but yet they keep weapons. Why? Why weapons? Because we must be able to fight the principles that are going against our dharma. Well, um, this ahimsa is supposed to be entirely different from mere passive resistance in this sense, where there is no scope for mutual love, but it is supposed to be, in Gandhiji's words, the passive resistance is supposed to create a scope for hatred, but satyagraha may be offered to one's heart, to even the dearest and the dearest among others. And that is what he propagated all throughout his life. Well, in modern civilization, unfortunately, weapons of mass destruction have been created. There has been awful anarchism, a frightful dispute between capital and labor. And well, there has been a cruelty inflicted on innocent, dumb, living things, living animals in the name of science and technology. We do have animal ethics committee and we do permit the experiments against animals, which, however, is not a good thing, or at least doesn't fit in Gandhian philosophy at all. Well, um, Gandhiji was not against technologies, but depending on technologies, he said would create a hierarchical relationship among men as well as between men and nature. And this is what has happened, in fact. I remember a story that I had heard as a child, of a person named Sheikh Chilli. I do not know whether this was a fictitious mm, person or uh, a real one. But the story goes like this. He sat on a branch of a tree and started cutting at the base. Unfortunately, the result would be that he would fall and probably become disabled for life. Well, we call our own species as Homo sapiens sapiens, a doubly intelligent species. However, in my opinion, we haven't been much different from this Sheikh Chilli. If we look at anthropology, we have had, in fact, weaknesses in comparison to other beasts around. We did not have strong claws. We did not have strong jaws. We did not have any other defenses. We could not run faster than many animals. We couldn't fly. We couldn't swim as swiftly as others, etc., etc. Yet, however, we could emerge as the most powerful species. Why? Because we had one single faculty which was strongest, and that was the brain. However, what we did with our brains, probably if again you look critically through anthropology, and what we can see is like Sheikh Chilli, we probably started, removing the bark with our nails and probably using teeth, etc., etc. That means our body itself. Then the stone tools came into existence. We started cutting with that. Then it was the metal age, and we had axes and saws. And then we developed machines. So we have a mechanized saw, and well, so on and so forth. But what we are doing is cutting the same branch on which we are sitting. So the entire humanity probably is being threatened because of, the nature's wrath we are facing today. And these instances are on an increase. COVID-19 pandemic has been just one among them. But even during these 6 months of pandemic, we have seen many nature's wraths that have been erupting all throughout the world. Well, so science is good only if it affords fullest scope for satisfying the hunger of body, mind, as well as soul. Well, this is again Indian philosophy. We do not view development as the materialistic development. We always look for the metaphysical development, spiritual development. And in fact, again, this COVID pandemic has shown us that our needs are really very, very little. Um, I'm sure by now you know this, that Professor Kamlakar Indulkar from Junior College Biology section had gone on Narmada Parikrama. This Narmada Parikrama is supposed to be taken, with minimum things carried on yourself and no money. And he had spent about little more than 3 months in this condition, and must have found that the basic needs are absolutely very little, and nature can very well take care of all these. Once again, this dogma has been central to Gandhiji's uh, irrefutable place as environmentalist. He had said, I quote, "Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not every man's greed." And this has been a central dogma for the modern ecologists, we can say. That well I was talking about the Indian philosophy. Not only that we have been thankful towards nature, towards even the non-living things, but well, also to the living things, like we would worship the cattle, um, Gomaya. Gandhiji had a special love towards Gomaya, Gomata, and in fact, he was also a vegetarian, and maybe suddenly found that he shouldn't be consuming even milk. If you have read his experiments of truth, Satyache Prayog, he has written in that I realized that drinking cow's milk is also a sin, and therefore he even stopped that. And his health started deteriorating, till ultimately the doctor said that if you do not consume milk, now you would die. And then he made a compromise, that he started consuming sheep's goat's milk. And that's how his famous goat appears in the photographs with him. Well, anyway, what I have been trying to tell you is this, that we have been thankful towards everything in nature, and we wouldn't destroy unnecessary things. Of course, this was prior to industrialization, I could say. And that development is supposed to be the spiritual development, not at all the materialistic development. Earning more money, earning all luxuries is not considered as development in Indian philosophy. So what we can in general say is that the Western world brought in the new modern economy, which is being propelled by frenzy of greed and an orgy of envy, that other person is doing better, so how I can do better, and which machines, a new model of it would give me better production, and so on and so forth. What new fertilizer can I put, what new um, you know pesticide that I can apply, so that I would deny their share to other animals, and get maximum productivity for myself. So this has been the modern economy. Well, the true economic standards would be for the social justice, and that it should promote good of all equally, including probably the weakest and indispensable uh, life in general, that we consider as lower beings, plants and invertebrates, vertebrates, and so on. Well, if we have limited wants, which was another principle in Gandhian economy, obviously we can lead a better and ecologically sustainable life. Well, there has been a lot of discussion on industrialization and the benefits and probably the threats because of that. And one thing is very, very clear to all of us through all this debate, and that is prior to industrialization, um, well, people used to lead a good, nice, satisfying life. In fact, I have been fortunate to read a lot, and I have seen, the novels which have been written probably in very early ages of Europe, and many of them, write about the basic cultivations and about the basic techniques of collecting the meat that they would require and so on. The life was as simple as it was in India probably 100, 200 years back. Man used to lead a good, satisfactory life. What happened? Well, in fact, the village concept, the Sarvodaya concept of Gandhiji is based on this, that villages used to be self-sustaining units, that everything that they would require for life would be produced, made, crafted in the village itself. Bara Balutedar, as we used to call them, 12 trades, and they used to exchange their skills and producers so as to lead a good life. And well, um, slowly, gradually, the changes happened, and probably industrialization, which originated, of course, in the West, was on mass production. And for mass production, more natural resources were being utilized. More means excessive, in fact. We have exploited nature like anything for these productions using machines, and wasteful production for that matter. And what we could say is that this started creating problems with environmental issues started rising through this. So as biologists, you all must have read about the peppered moths, that the population was white with black spots on the wings of this peppered moth, Biston betularia. And that when the industrialization struck, this was before 1840s, and after 1840s, when another survey was done, it was found that the population of the completely black winged moths had increased. Earlier it was less than 1%, and after 1845 it was more than 95%, and only 5% were white winged among them. And it was then found out that this was melanism, industrial melanism as we call it now, because the environment was clean of rather the air was clean, that the trees there had a pale whitish bark, and the white peppered moth could survive properly. But after the soot started depositing, when the industries started using wood and coal as a fuel, all these tree trunks got covered in black soot, and the black-winged moths, which were probably only 1%, because they could be easily sighted and eaten away by the predators, now had the advantage that they could probably had a better camouflage, and were not removed by the predators, but white-winged moths were. And of course, later on, when the source of energy shifted to electricity, the environment cleaned up, and the white peppered moth population again rose. That apart, but what I'm trying to tell you is that this is what industrial development. This is how the industrial development affected the environment in general. So the mass production started, the economic started, the trade started, And the industries were located in places where urbanization occurred soon. And these two things went hand in hand, industrialization and urbanization. And the population density kept on rising, particularly in the cities. And this once again, the biological principle that whenever there is crowding, the pathogens have a golden era, and they would propagate. Many diseases would prop up, and this is how even COVID infection started. And in villages, the conditions are much better, and therefore people are healthier. They lead a healthy, long life. Whereas at the same age, probably a urban dweller is living only on medicines. Well, so this created, of course, an environmental injustice. And probably in Gandhiji's words, it has been a structural violence. And the violence and counter violence would never resolve the conflicts. So the conflict between haves and have nots started increasing. And well, there have been movements all throughout the world to protect livelihoods, to control the resources. In fact, one of the theories has been that the recent Gulf War was for the control of oil as a resource. Well, anyway, we will not enter into the political issues here. Most of the conflicts have been for self-determination, self-sustenance, which became difficult because of inequality created due to industrialization. Well, another thing that started increasing was the transport. The raw materials had to be transported and the finished goods had to be transported, and therefore transports sector became another very prominent polluting sector. And today it is not topping the list as such, but among the most powerful cause of pollution, air pollution mainly. Well, um, so there have been, movements all over the world for all these purposes. And Indian environmental movements have also been there. Well, I always remember the story of, king in Rajasthan, uh, particularly Jodhpur. His name was, I think, Abhay Singh. And he wanted to construct a fort. And for that, the calcium carbonate mined out would have to be roasted, and for that wood was needed. And the uh, Khajarli trees that were available in that area, he ordered them to be chopped and the fuel to be collected. And probably one of the oldest environmental movement was there, like which has inspired the Chipko movement that occurred in India in 1970s. This was 1730 AD. And the villagers of the area, the Bishnoi community as we call them, who worship the trees, they resisted it, and there was a huge massacre. If I could have shown you the slides, there was a picture that has been painted in a local temple of this um, Khajarli massacre, as you call it now. And this inspired the Chipko movement in 1973 in Chamoli district of Uttar Pradesh. And though it seems that this movement was for saving the trees, in fact, this was the first movement that mobilized the women power. There were many women in this movement. Um, I have here a few names. Gaura Devi and Suraksha Devi and Sudesha Devi and Bachini Devi, Chandi Prasad Bhatt, Virushka Devi, and many more ladies. So this was, the first movement wherein the women found that yes, they too are as powerful. And like that, there have been, several movements. Chipko movement is one of the most significant one because it is directly for saving the nature, trees as such. And this was a non-violent movement. Again, taking to Gandhian principles, this was truly a satyagraha. And the satyagraha is considered to be a moral equivalent of war. So in 1730 massacre, this was almost like a war, though the war fought against the weaponless individuals who were only trying to protect the trees. Well, but the Chipko movement that was again successful, in fact, was against deforestation, so directly for saving nature. Well, Gandhiji, in fact, also introduced something called Padayatra. Now, this Padayatra would also be conducted to save nature. Of course, this had a political angle to it as well, but we will not enter into that. Well, the conflict resolution techniques based on these non-violent movements and self-sacrifice were used by environmental activists like Chandi Prasad Bhatt and Baba Amte and Sundarlal Bahuguna and Medha Patkar and many more persons in India. Well, the vision of Gandhi's mobilization of the new society was always based on the principle that neither man or nature is exploited and destroyed by powerfuls. And this was the civilizational response to a threat to human survival, you could say. Well, there has been a pioneer of new ecology called deep ecology. Arne Nice was the pioneer of it. And he propagated the idea of biospherical egalitarianism, difficult word. Egalitarianism is supposed to be samatavad. Well, biospherical egalitarianism is supposed to be the idea based directly on Gandhian principles, and in fact, Arne Nice has accepted this, that he had planned all this on Gandhi's literature. And in fact, Gandhi's principles not only, well, in fact, Gandhi was a man of deep ecological views of life. And these views were too deep even for the deep ecology to probably explain. Well, I quote Gandhiji again here. I remain an optimist, not that there is any evidence that I can give that right is going to prosper, but because of my unflinching faith that a right must prosper in the end. Just a moment, please. I'm sorry, there was a suggestion from the audience that I should show my laptop for showing the presentation on my PC, but I don't think that is necessary. And in fact, I'm coming to almost the end of my lecture, so it doesn't matter. I think you all still can enjoy what I'm speaking about. So it doesn't matter, except that I couldn't show you the pictures, which I can show now. This was the painting. I do not know whether you all can see, because I cannot see what you are seeing. Anyway, so it is better that I do not indulge into such practices. And I would only speak looking at the presentation so that I do not miss out on the points there. Well, so this is what I would say. I just quoted Gandhiji. I may repeat that. I remain an optimist, not that there is any evidence that I can give that right or truth is going to prosper, but because of my unflinching faith that right must prosper in the end. Satyameva Jayate. I think this principle is again one of the major principles that we dwell upon, and well, we continue our uh, movements which have been, as Gandhi taught us, the non-violent movements. Though it began with non-violent movements, and unfortunately, today's scenario is that they are becoming violent. We destroy our own government property, and without thinking we do that, and ultimately who is to pay for this destruction? We ourselves. The taxes increase, the state has to use money again to purchase the buses and repair the bus stations and railway coaches and so on and so forth, and this money ultimately comes from us. Well, not realizing this, we do this, but fortunately for us, the world is learning from Gandhiji's teachings, though we are forgetting them. And well, we learn from Gandhi's views from movies like you know I don't remember the titles again. Um, uh, Sanjay's movies of Lage Raho Munna Bhai and Munna Bhai things, but quite in general, we see Gandhiji on every currency note, and in fact that is a very wrong place, because he never revered money in his life, and we revere precisely that, and we see him only on the currency notes, unfortunately, and ignore his teachings. Whereas the world and world leaders accept the depth of Mahatma Gandhi for teaching them the right ways to fight against the crisis, we are forgetting it. So we must now rethink about our ways of life, and develop upon Gandhiji's principles. Um, running against for our livelihoods here and there, and forgetting our exercise. I remember that I always walked 15 to 20 minutes from my home to residence to reach the railway station, and whenever the rains would cause the problems with the trains, and the trains come to standstill, I used to walk down all the way from Ghatkopar to Kalyan, and I used to enjoy it really. Uh, well, again, it is not me I'm talking about, but what I'm saying is that yes, we unfortunately have become dependent on so many things, which probably is not good. We would always take a rickshaw even to avoid walking for 10 minutes, and then spend money on doctors and the treatment, and take medicines to remain healthy. Uh, COVID-19 pandemic has in fact taught us many things all over again, and we learned to sustain on minimal supplies, and we forgot about eating outside, and we forgot about taking tours which are not necessary but pleasure trips in fact, and so many things that otherwise were not important for human existence. So I think we should continue this experience and bring it to the real day life that we would lead after the pandemic is over. I don't know. I don't think the COVID virus is going to disappear altogether. Though probably we will become quite used to like probably the influenza and other viruses. But what lessons it has taught us, we shouldn't be forgetting. And if we develop upon that and Gandhi's principles, I think we can lead a better life. So thank you everybody for the patient listening with all the problems of Wi-Fi and technologies. And this is precisely what again I would like to underline, that Gandhiji was for everything done manually and not depending on the machines, and dependence on the machines. Even you and me experience today that the failure of one thing would create problems for us. So anyway, I would like to take questions if there are there any. So I would request the organizers to please coordinate this question answer session. Praveen sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good
Yeah,
morning.
yeah. Any questions? You can put it in the chat box, or you can directly ask.
Unmute now
Yeah,
for them.
you can. 1 minute.
So anybody who wants to ask question, maybe unmuting himself or herself.
Yeah, you can unmute yourself.
I take it that there are no questions. So I hope that this wasn't too much beyond your understanding.
जैसे थोड़े समय के बाद आएगा उनको क्वेश्चन, अभी नहीं रहेगा, तो अभी तो yeah, just they have to imbibe what has been told.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. So I thank Junjanwala College for giving me this opportunity, and I have lived through some great works of Mahatma Gandhi for this, and well, I'm thankful for that too.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Madam, yes, sir. Anyone? Yeah. Okay, sir. I feel yeah, there are compliments from number of my colleagues.
Yes,
we
thank you.
really miss you, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah, we really
even
miss you.
I do, man.
Yeah, sir, it is indeed very nostalgic, as Bindu madam said, remembering the time when sir would take long sessions of practicals and delivering such kind of talks on animals and environment. It used to be a different aura altogether. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I got this opportunity to listen after a very long time, sir. And because of this pandemic, there's a barrier. We have to be online. But
Yes, yes.
sometime, yeah, sometime later we will see you in the college, sir.
But listen to Kamlakar's experiences of his Padayatra.
Okay, yeah, yeah, Narmada Padyatra.
Keep one session for that. I think it would be very nice to hear him and see the photographs and all that.
Okay, sure, sir. I will convey.
Yes.
Probably, I will convey
Usha
to
madam is
madam and
listening.
sir. Probably a meeting. Madam and sir probably are in a meeting. Okay, so
Oh,
I will
oh,
convey a message.
oh, yes, yes, yes.
Probably they are logged out. They are probably in a meeting. Okay,
Okay,
so I will convey
okay.
the message and we'll see, sir, that
Yes.
such a lecture is arranged.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Okay. So on behalf of Junjunwala College,
Hmm.
sir,
Yeah, yeah.
एक
It's okay.
formally एक vote of thanks दे रहा हूँ, sir.
Uh-huh.
Rather you are a part of RJ College, but then still a formal. So on behalf of the Junjunwala College, the teachers and the students, I extend my heartfelt gratitude and thanks to Kale sir for spending his valuable time because sir is very busy. He gives webinars. One or two I have attended in other association also, sir. So thank you, sir, for spending a valuable time and sharing your experiences and on the life of Mahatma Gandhi. So thank you very much, sir, and have a good day.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Thanks. So I'll close the meeting now. Sir.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.